everyone, and welcome to Living in Truth podcast with Panoplia.
Episode 2, and they said it would never happen.
So tonight, we are going to be talking about what it means to be a Christian during the COVID-19 pandemic.
Ooh, we're getting into some touchy subjects here.
Yes.
I love it, but...
Isn't it touchy, though?
I mean, I guess it shouldn't be, because people had to ask themselves, what does it mean to be a Christian during the Black Plague? And they found an answer then.
Yes.
And we should find the same answer today.
Yeah, so we were just, a lot of these podcast topics are really just...
Stuff we rant about in the car.
Yeah, I love ranting and just throwing around ideas.
Sorry if you heard me punch my mic in the face on accident.
We just love discussion, really. Like, our relationship thrives on discussion.
Mainly facilitated by her. She'll ask a question and I'll just be like, how did you even think of that? But then we'll get into a really good discussion.
Yeah, so how did this come up? So, really just, I've been thinking a lot lately about how a lot of the churches are closed. And if I'm being honest with you guys, I might have said this last week, I can't remember, but I cannot sit in front of these live streams. Yeah. I've tried and like sometimes I just laugh sometimes because it's so awkward, people trying to lead worship with no one there, because most people feed off of worship and they're still trying to do the arms and everything, and it just looks silly because you don't even have the full band. And then, like, a friend of ours mentioned when we were talking to them yesterday that she's listened to multiple live streams, and she said that it feels like everybody's talking about the exact same thing. I can't speak to that because I normally don't get past the worship. So
well, yeah. And as a tech person / AV person myself, it's really, really hard to watch a lot of these live streams because, and I get it, a lot of churches, they don't have the resources. Live streaming's been flung on a lot of them at the last minute, but that in my brain I just see it and I'm like, this is not good. And it's really hard for me to ignore like sound issues in particular or video issues when I see them come up. And I know that's no fault of the churches, but I just can't tune in for that stuff. Plus I'm easily distracted by all the filth that pops up on the computer. Like I need to have it in person.
Yeah, so we were driving home from my parents' house tonight because we see them a good bit of the time. And, everybody has crosses up right now. And I in no way mean to offend anybody who has a cross up in front of their yard right now. Like, this is just me being real. But I was driving and I asked Caleb, I said, well, why do you think people are putting crosses up? Like, nobody has ever done this before.
And my response was because they're being super Krish.
That was his response. But, we make this, in a sense, we make this show of going to church, and people can't, actively go to church on Sunday. So I guess it makes them feel better about not being able to go to church. I guess it makes them feel a bit like church is with them by having a cross in their yard. Yeah. But how much is it? Who cares that you have a cross in your yard? Right. We're really just putting crosses up to show people that we're Christians. Yeah.
And when we were having this conversation, I was saying it'd be a lot more helpful to have a knock on my door if you need anything sign. That would be a lot more Christian than having a cross in your yard right now.
Yeah, and so we were just talking about that led me thinking about this. I said, well, what does it look like to be a Christian during this? And
I think part of this, we've been kind of sort of discussing it a lot of the week. We jumped into a Facebook comment section and we talked about this some on our last episode. Maybe I should stop doing that. But there was one where someone felt the need to bring up, well, I've watched 3 different live streams this week or whatever. Like, I'm a Christian. I listen to church all the time. Like, is that really what it looks like to be a Christian during this? Is that really our one responsibility during this crisis?
Right, yeah, and we've been talking a lot about how, do we really need live streams right now? Because in the home,
as long as you don't live in a state that's forbidden even the smallest of gatherings, at least.
Well, yeah, but what we're talking about is that in the home, most people who are Christians do private study.
Right.
Like we have Bible study guides and all sorts of stuff that we use to get in the Word. So do we really need a live stream? Like, why do we go to church? And most people go to church for the community and the opportunities that are presented there, not so much to be their main source of protein for the week. Yeah,
the purpose of the church in Acts was just simply to come together and love each other. The reading of the Word, the worshiping God with your life was supposed to be done at home. And that happens obviously in fellowship too, but that's not supposed to be your only source of that. So with live stream, church, nothing's different. You're just losing the one purpose of Sunday church, which is the community.
Yeah. So as we were talking about what it looks like to be a Christian during this pandemic, I've noted that a lot of businesses and churches in the area have still been doing quote unquote outreach. A lot of the food pantries are still open, and that's really good. But outside of that, people's outreach is looking like, oh, let me take all of these things to people at the hospital. I took 500 gift cards down to...
They love talking about that number too.
Our churches today are like really obsessed with numbers. Like we helped... we had 10 people come to Jesus in our Easter program tonight, but our number is really important. And so I was telling Caleb that, I'm like, do you really think these first responders, like these people working in the hospitals on the front line with the COVID-19, like, do we really think that they want you to bring them, like, a different meal every day to feed them? Like, some people don't like eating out, and there's just a lot of stuff. And I'm not saying these things are bad, but like when everybody's taking stuff to one hospital when we've got at least 3 hospitals here in Augusta, like we're showing favoritism to the hospital, and then like we're trying to help these first responders, but there are so many first responders completely being forgotten and uncared for.
Yeah, and again, it sounds like we think these things aren't done, with good intentions or with, thoughtful hearts in mind. But like, there are some folks around here who are like, let's give candy and a card to these first responders. But there's a coffee shop in town, Interbean. I'll just go ahead and name drop them because they're great and they should have all the business in the world. That delivered coffee to folks who are working in hospitals, which is something that is actually useful to them, especially right now. And they don't deliver, they don't bring much, but what they do bring, I think, is incredible. It just, really meets them where they're at. The, few people that I've been able to talk to and work in hospitals, and I say talk to, I mean seeing them post stuff on social media, because I don't ever really talk to people right now. But they're, they're drained, they're exhausted. A little coffee or a pick-me-up to push them through the rest of the day is a really big deal to them. But on the same token, like Tabitha was just saying, we need to find folks that aren't getting that kind of attention and give it to them. People tend to copycat good things, which is good, but copy them in a new way so the same people aren't getting the same stuff.
Right, and we're talking about first responders, and God bless them, special anointing on them for everything that they're doing. I'm grateful that I'm not in that position with all that stress right now. But on the flip side, we're helping the people who are working, but how many people do we have that aren't working right now? How many people have lost their jobs? And so as Caleb and I were talking about this, I'm really big on the what would Jesus do right now. That's like my slogan. It's come back from middle school years for me. I was Catholic. It took a while for me to us to catch on to that. But when I was talking to Caleb about this, what came to mind was the story of the woman at the well. Yeah. And so often our churches, like we were saying, care about numbers. But did Jesus care about numbers? At the woman at the well, there was a whole crowd there, and if Jesus wanted to, he very easily could have turned that whole crowd into a crowd of believers. But all he did was send them away, and he focused on that one and caring for that one and turning that one into a believer. So why do we try to turn the crowd into believers and focus on the crowd when Jesus didn't do that? He just focused on the one.
Yeah, and this isn't just taking the one thing out of context either. Like, crowds of people were following him when that woman touched his garment, and he spent time with the one. It wasn't the Sermon on the Mount that led people to truly follow him for the rest of their lives. It was the woman, the woman at the well who he talked to one-on-one, the woman who was caught in adultery, who he dealt with one-on-one, the Pharisee who he ate with in John chapter 3, we talked to one-on-one. Those all had way bigger changes, and Jesus spent a lot of time with them, and you can think, well, he could have preached a sermon to 10,000 and converted them all. But Jesus was so focused on individuals and showing them that he cared about them and cared about their life and their souls as a model for our own lives. And I'm not saying you can't do things in these big groups, but it means a whole lot more if you say, find a neighbor and say, is there anything I can do for you? How can I buy, your groceries? And sure, doing that much for that one might mean you have less to do for others. But that's the model Jesus has given us because it works so much more effectively.
Right. Yeah. And, I'm just thinking it's a hard time for everybody right now. Mm-hmm. But I think the best thing to do during this time is just constantly think, what can I do for others? Our small businesses are struggling. And we have this really awesome place in Augusta. It's a t-shirt company. I think they're called Show Pony.
Yeah, Show Pony.
And they're doing a campaign called We Give a Shirt right now.
Love that name.
And so what they're doing is they're designing shirts for all of our small businesses, and then they're letting consumers buy the shirts. And they have those shirts are posted for about 2 weeks, I think. And so the goal is to get at least 50 people buying the shirts after 2 weeks. And if they reach the 50 mark or past it, they go ahead and print the shirt. And then they give part of the proceeds to the small businesses to help them through this time.
And a lot of times when people do something like this, it's like, oh, you get the little $2 leftovers of whatever it is. But no, they get $10 per shirt, which is huge for a lot of businesses right now, especially those small local businesses who have been struggling because they have to shut their doors.
Yeah, but what does it look like to be the hands and feet of Jesus? Like, that might not seem like much, but like you buying one t-shirt from them puts $10 in a business's pocket.
Right.
And you get something out of it, which we're not always looking to get stuff out of it, but that's just one way to show a business.
Yeah, and a lot of these small businesses they have some kind of online, they're doing whatever they can to stay open within the guidelines. I know in Augusta, a lot of places, like the Interbean coffee shop we mentioned this morning, they're saying pull up in the parking lot and call us and we'll bring it to you. They are trying so hard because they need that income. Their employees need that income. And it's extremely important. And, we have probably spent more money on our local businesses lately. Not to brag on us. This has nothing to do with us. We're just, trying to do our part. But, Tabitha's a very compassionate person. She'll see, our business is struggling right now. If you could please go to this link and buy something from us. Like, we've got, a bunch of stuff in our freezer that we're never going to eat, but we just wanted to buy to support these businesses. That's,
that to say minimum. We're not going to make it go to waste. Like, we're going to gift it to people once the pandemic's over.
Yeah, but we, it's just little, again, and I'm not saying we're great. We could be doing a lot more than we are, but those are the little things you can do.
Yeah, and this guy I went to high school with made a post on Facebook today, and he was saying, if anybody's been impacted by this and lost their job or been cut on hours, drop your name below. I'd like, I'm going to pick 1 or 2 people that I'm going to send you money to buy yourself dinner or a meal or something, and that doesn't seem like a lot, but
that's everything sometimes.
Yeah, and for all that might open up a door for them to be like, man, I can't believe you gifted me money for this. Why did you do that? And
it's what Jesus would do as an acceptable answer. That's what Jesus would do,
but then that opens a door for you to spread the gospel to people.
Right. And like, another thing we can all do, I am ashamed that some of the stores have had to enforce this. Don't buy up everything for yourself. Like, I get that that's so tiny and no one is ever going to see the fruit of what you're doing with that. Leave some stuff on the shelves for other people, please. You don't need 1,000 wads of toilet paper for a month-long stay-at-home order. Like, that's just a personal thing for me. I keep going to stores and seeing now everyone has to limit what they buy because a few people have decided they want to buy up everything because they think this is the apocalypse or something. Like, calm down. Jesus is still on the throne, to use a cliche.
Yeah.
We'll all be okay at the end of this.
Yeah,
and that's a message we need more of right now.
I like to think most people aren't, like, buying too much, though. I think they're just a handful.
That's probably true.
Like, I read this story today that this one guy bought like 150 32 packs of toilet paper in Australia and tried to return it.
And the store
owner was like,
no.
I'm not giving you your money back. It's your fault for buying all of this. You have to suffer with the financial consequences of this now.
Right.
But
did you figure out how to pick that chair up?
I know how to pick it up.
There's a chair in this room that I have just been sitting in so low because I couldn't figure out where the thing was to lift it up. Sorry, distraction.
Well, you have to like lift yourself off of it too to lift it.
Well, I could never find that switch until I just watched you flip it. I'm smart, guys.
Yeah, so something else that I really feel like I need to say during what does it mean to be a Christian during this. To be a Christian during this time is to have compassion for people.
Yes.
You know, I made a post recently about the impacts of, I'm a small business. I've lost
a lot.
At least half of my income. For a while there, I lost probably about 90% of it. Mm-hmm. I'm slowly getting some of it back, but there's about 50% that I won't be able to get back. Yeah. I might never get back. One of them's a school contract, and I'm hoping they'll renew next year. But
you never know.
You never know.
Like this happens. Yeah.
And then some of them are nursing homes, and I imagine nursing homes are going to be closed a lot longer than everything else will during this. You know, but I just made a post about like not making small businesses feel bad for being open. You know, because when you look at the breakdown of small businesses, I don't have a building that I have to pay for, but a lot of these small businesses have buildings.
So and that they're paying for whether they're open or not.
Yeah, and so for that, you know, they need the money for rent, they need water.
Most of them are trying to pay their employees
electricity.
Yeah. They're
trying to pay their employees. They want to pay themselves. They need to be able to cover the cost of the goods that they're trying to bring in to sell. And that's just a lot, you know. So when these businesses are having to close, these prices can be huge. Mm-hmm. Of how much they owe at the end of this if their businesses are closed. And I've just seen a lot of people saying, well, they shouldn't be open, blah, blah, blah. You can get a small business loan. Well, I know.
No, you can't.
Yeah, I know a lot of other music therapy business owners, and most of them were not able to get the small business loan. Only of everybody that applied for small businesses loans, only 5 to 7% of applications actually got money.
Right, and we won't get into the politics of why that is, but you know, it's that's just the way it is right now.
Yeah, so we're talking about how we're thinking, well, our small businesses don't need us because they can get the loans. They can't. Only 5 to 7% of applicants actually were able to get loans. And on top of that, some like the guidelines for how to have the loans forgiven aren't very clear right now.
Yeah.
So the people who do have money, they're like, I don't really know how to get this forgiven. Because they didn't outline that well, and
so essentially all you're doing is delaying all that cost if you have to pay it back.
You know, and it's like mortgages. People are like, well, they're not going to make you pay your mortgage, and it's like, well, no, you don't have to pay your mortgage this month. They're doing a 3-month thing, but it's just delaying it. So if your mortgage, like obviously your mortgage isn't going to be $300, but I'm bad at math, so we're just going to say $300. So if you have a $300 mortgage, you know, it's going to be $300 for April, mm-hmm. $300 for May, $300 for June, and then at the end, like come July, all 3 months. So you're going to have to pay $1,200 come June if you haven't been paying on it. And that's the truth of this. Like, we're saying that, you know, the bills are holding off, and it's like, yeah, they're holding off, but they're not forgiving what you've used.
Yeah.
And that's just the truth of it. So
it's not on them. Like, people still need to make their money. So
yeah, I used the electricity, so I should have to pay for the electricity, you know. And I lived in my house, so I should have to pay for my house. and it's not like I'm really not trying to be mean or like hit on anybody, but we need to be compassionate about this stuff. Like, don't make small business owners feel bad for being open, because not only are they trying to provide for their employees, but they're trying to bring in for their families. Like, I know music therapy business owners that are single moms, and they lost practically all of their income when this hit. So they might have employees that they can't play right now, but more than that, they're worried about how they're going to take care of their families. So when you hear small business owners or anyone talking about the struggle, don't go on and tell them they can apply for loans. Go share some compassion. Say, man, I'm really sorry that's happening to you. How can I help you?
Right. And
that's what it looks like to be the hands and feet of Jesus during this.
Yeah.
Be compassionate.
And it's the same thing with people who aren't working. It's the same thing when people tell them, well, you can just go get unemployment. Like, there are a lot of people, and I'll say it, myself included, who really feel bad about taking unemployment, because when you're like me and you've worked, and I'm still working during this time, so I wouldn't get it anyway. But if you're like me, you believe you should pull yourself up by your bootstraps and work hard for what you have. It's hard just on you as a person to draw that unemployment out. Not to mention that, just like the business loans, the pool for that is a lot bigger, but it's still a limited pool. And a lot of people are being rejected for unemployment. A lot of these small business owners who are just closing their businesses and filing for unemployment, they're not able to get it because they were those small business owners. And Tabatha saw someone on one of her pages who had to wrestle with the question of, do I let my employee go so she can draw unemployment because I can't pay her right now? Like, there are a lot of folks right now who need someone to take care of them. And that someone doesn't have to be the government passing a law. That's going to take ages to get there. But you can reach them right now, help them where they are right now, and get to them.
Yeah, so have compassion. If you see people struggling with their house payment, if you see, don't try to pull, like, if you haven't researched these things, don't tell them their loan's been, like, don't tell them that, their house payment's been deferred, because you're just going to screw them up when the 3 house payments come to be paid. Don't tell them that there are loan options, because loans have to be paid. And like, I'm a therapist, I can take a loan for $3,000 right now, but by the time, like, I'd have to work double, triple my hours to be able to pay that off. I have to, like, my money's consistent. I can't up the price of therapy just to increase the amount I can pay on my loan. I have to get more clients to be able to do that, and that's not an easy feat either.
Right. We pay enough loans between student loans, house loans, like, we don't need another thing on top of it either. That's not going to help. It's just going to delay the inevitable of having to spend that money and eat that cost.
Yeah. So have compassion on your neighbors, on your business owners. If you're at home with your kids, have compassion on your kids.
Please.
Because, it's a lot of adjustment for everybody, and it's just really hard. Like, we all have differing viewpoints right now. And we all think different things should be happening, but this isn't a time to sit here and get in arguments over everything. Like, just have compassion on your neighbor. Jesus wouldn't go out of his way to prove someone wrong. Right. Unless it was on a biblical principle. Right. But these aren't, like, technically biblical principles.
Jesus called out hypocrites and hypocrites alone. So, if they're not acting like a hypocrite, biblically speaking, you don't have to engage. And you don't have to always be right, because we're all only human. But compassion right now is what these folks need. A lot of these people who are angry or upset are just inside. They want to ask for help and they don't know how. So be a light to these people. Help them if you're able. If you're not able to, if you yourself are struggling for help, that's a hard situation to be in. Mm-hmm. And I feel for you. And I would like to help you, and I'm sure there are a lot of people around you who would like to help you. So just, if you need help, speak up.
Yeah, so I think that's a good place to end this. I hope we gave you some things to think about. If you've helped someone or have examples of how to be a Christian, we would love to hear them. Mm-hmm. Feel free to reach out to us. We have our Instagram.
At Panoplia Worship, Panoplia, because I know it's hard to spell. We have if you want to send us an email, we don't check this email super often, but, it's the same email address, panopleaworship@gmail.com, spelled the same way.
Yeah, and this is if you have examples of how to be a Christian during this time, or if you need help. Kaleb and I don't have much. Like I said, I lost, at least 60 to 90% of my business right now. I'm slowly getting some of it back.
But we're making it.
Yeah, but we're making it. And so if you need anything, reach out to us. I can't promise that we have a lot to give, but we'd love to give you what we do have.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, ending that, we can dive into some shameless plugs. I need to make a electricity sound effect to put here after I say shameless plugs. So we've already talked about our Instagram at Panoply of Worship. That one I wasn't going to say was shameless because we're trying to use it for some good. We just created a TikTok actually tonight. KTAB in the house. If you want to find us,
don't find us.
It's going to be really cringy. You probably shouldn't find us. We're also Panoply of Worship on YouTube. The intro that you heard at the beginning of this podcast, that music is now 5 years old. No, sorry, 4 years old. I'm sorry, it's on the second thing we did. That song is now 4 years old, but we are in the process of recording an actual version of that song and plenty of others that we will put out. That's part of the Panoply of Worship thing. We do worship music.
We haven't set a goal, but let's say right now our goal is possibly end of summer for this project.
So don't hold us to that because it's going to be completely self-produced, which means we have to set our own deadlines. And I know the guy who set the deadlines, and I don't want to listen to that guy. But just stay tuned because there will be some music. We're really excited to put it out there. We don't expect a lot of people to listen to it, but that's okay. We hope it can bless a few of you. And so I think that's all of the shameless plugs. I'll get a real sound effect later that we have. So thank you so much for listening.
And don't forget, we'd love to hear from you.
Yes. See you next time, folks.
Bye.